Well, Chris and Robbie, we find ourselves on the road this morning. We're at the magnificent Ritz Carlton, Dubai, JBR. It is the lobby lounge. And we've got a very special guest, Robbie.
Yeah, we certainly do. We are delighted to be joined. I believe this is his first interview on Middle East soil.
It is.
Talking about the fight game. Delighted to be joined by the founder and CEO of Paradigm Sports, Audie Attar, the man behind Conor McGregor, the man behind Manny Pacquiao, Israel Adesanya. The list goes on. Audie, it's an absolute pleasure
to
have you
with
with
us
here.
Thanks for having me, boys. Appreciate it.
Don't be silly, Audie. There's so much for us to discuss with you over the course of the next half hour, 40 minutes. Let's start, though. You're in Dubai. It's a bit of a whistle-top tour for you. I think you've got something like 30 meetings set up. You're a busy boy.
Busy man, but you know what? Very, very fortunate. We were very fortunate this year. We opened up Paradigm Sports International in our offices here in Dubai, and we recruited Mohammed Saul, who came to us from the finance banking world, who's now heading up our offices here, and really excited about what's to come for us here in this region, and really about what's going on, not only in the fight game, but in the world of sports and what the region's doing for the world of sports. It's pretty exciting.
Your star man, Conor McGregor, he sent a somewhat cryptic tweet a couple of weeks ago saying, "See you guys soon," vis-a-vis here in the Middle East. So we're going to get to what the activities may be. It's an exciting year, 2021, for fight fans in the Middle East, with everything that the UFC are doing, with a potential boxing bout taking place as well. We'll get to all that. But in terms of Paradigm Sports and the origin stories of that, Audie, I'm really curious to kind of find out exactly how that got set up and how you started in that venture.
Sure. And I think he responded to a soccer player. It was a soccer player that was doing the Conor strut, and it was a local team, I believe, one of the club teams. Yeah, so it was exciting. He was really excited about that. That was fun. But thanks for asking, obviously, and to have you guys interested in having me on the show is a great honor. To have you guys interested in learning a little bit more about Paradigm Sports is a great honor. For me, the journey's been a great one. This was our 10-year anniversary. This year has gone by so fast. Now heading into our 11th year, but it started when I spent about 7 years working for another agency, and I was an athlete myself. I played collegiately college American football for UCLA, and after my collegiate career ended, I actually took a job with an NFL sports agency, worked my way up, and during my time there, I realized that athletes weren't necessarily treated the right way, at least per my standards. And a lot of the people that I was working with early in my career were either my former teammates, guys I played with against in college, or played with all-star teams, what have you. So there was a fraternity of guys that I was already fortunate enough to start working with early in my career. But philosophically, I did not agree with what I was seeing, and I wanted to create something different. So I went back to business school, and I had a paradigm shift in terms of what I wanted to create. My entrepreneurial fires were lit. I knew that I wanted to build something that was special, not just from a management perspective, but a platform perspective that amplified who these athletes are, what these athletes do, and create opportunities for them that go beyond athletics.
Okay, just on that point then, because it is remarkable, as you say, celebrating your 10th year anniversary, you've achieved a lot, and I'm not just blowing hot air up your backside with that, Audie, you have in a short space of time. What was it then that you noticed that other agencies weren't doing? Because that might sound, on the face of it, pretty impressive, but give us the long and short. What were agencies not doing in order to build their athletes up?
I think they weren't daring to dream. I think they looked at their athletes as transactional clients. I negotiate their contract with their respective promotion or club. I get them a sponsor. I get them PR, and that's it, right? It wasn't, let's create brands. Let's dare to go into sectors that align naturally with you, even if someone told you shouldn't be getting into, fintech. But if you, as an athlete, somehow had an accounting background, spent a little time interning during even your pro years, and you had the ability of creating something in that sector with experts you had the strategic capital, the right operating expertise, the supply chain route to market, and you're able to align your star power with those experts and create a venture for yourself, why wouldn't you do it, right? Daring to dream, daring to go outside the box is the key. I think that's the first step. The second step was, to me, people that they weren't necessarily helping these athletes develop their post-athletic identity. For me, as a former athlete, people never gave you credit to be more than brawn. It was all, that's all they could do. But the reality of it is these athletes have amazing work ethic, the mental toughness that we all aspire to achieve as professionals now. We were talking about how old we were earlier, and we are getting old, right? And in my old age, I still now try to train my mind more than my body, right? Because that's important even in the business world. And I think creating a platform where you're really caring about these athletes' post-athletic identity, that's not transactional. You don't make money on that from a management or agency's perspective, but it is part of our purpose. And for me, that's where the name came from. I had a paradigm shift. I knew what I wanted to create. It was more than just a transactional business. It was more than just negotiating contracts. It was building a platform, building ventures, and then making sure that not everybody's going to have that ability also to create those ventures. So when the sport ends, and usually it's done with you before you're done with it. That's usually what happens to athletes, is that their career abruptly ends with an injury, something happens, and they go through post-traumatic stress. It's like, what do I do next? They're scared, they're vulnerable, and they usually have a sense of pride. They don't ask for help. Yeah. So to me, there was a purpose that I had to fill for myself, feel good about, and quite frankly, then it just started to evolve. I started to focus on high-growth sports and really started thinking about things from a business standpoint as well, that married my passion and my purpose with also just a smart business strategy.
Who was your first major signing? What signing did you feel like I've kind of made a breakthrough here? Can you remember
Michael Bisping. Yeah. Michael Bisping, still client, one of my dearest friends. Love the guy to death. He's done an amazing job in terms of not only what he achieved in his athletic career, but then also in his post-athletic identity now and what he's doing. So I'm so honored to have been a small part of what he's done, and he's been a huge part of what we've done. And I always say this to everybody: I wouldn't have signed Conor McGregor had I not signed Michael Bisping and done a good job for Michael Bisping.
And Michael Bisping, who is doing a great job now in the media sphere as a pundit, as an analyst for the UFC, fantastic, great insight. And I'm going to say that because he's much bigger than I am as well. Conor McGregor, you've mentioned him there. You've mentioned Conor, Audie, and it's inevitable that we're going to get there because, of course, he is, in a lot of ways now, your poster boy. He is the one that, let's be frank, all your rivals would love to have on your books. Give us the anecdote. How did the two of you cross paths, and how eventually did you get Conor to sign on the dotted line?
So, someone had pointed, I get emails and messages from friends and associates and acquaintances. Hey, you should sign this athlete. You should sign that athlete. And I never not look at anybody, but I will say there's more noise than there are signals usually in those instances. Yeah. So someone had pointed out, hey, this kid just signed to the UFC. You should check him out. And so I looked. I watched his film, and athletically he was great. He was phenomenal. When you look at the height, weight, speed component, the performance component, strength of schedule, how he was winning convincingly in a very impressive manner. That is what initially caught my eye, at least, because he wasn't on a platform where all his qualitative skills were able to shine through. I mean, he has an amazing skill, and as I was sharing with you guys before we started filming, that a lot of people watch him just for how inspirational he is, right? And just for his ability to speak and how fun he is and witty he is. And but when I first saw him, it was purely from a scouting perspective. So someone pointed him out and then made the introduction. It was really through initially social media, and we were talking through DMs, and then we did a FaceTime, me, him, and John Kavanaugh. I remember the first time, and that was before his first fight in the UFC against Marcus Brimage, and we had a great conversation. And I put forth my value proposition and how I differentiate and who I am and what I stand for. And at the time, Paradigm Sports was really me and a couple people, and there's only one person from that era who's still left with us now, right? So it was the beginning days, but everybody was pitching him in the endemic market, I should say, and he believed. And at the end of the day, we started. We said, okay, well, you get through this Marcus Brimage fight, and we'll meet again. We reconnected after the fight. We agreed to start working together for his second fight, which was his U.S. debut against Max Holloway. We worked together for that Boston card, did a great job, and he's like, I want to work with you, and it's evolved ever since. I mean, he's not only a great client, we're business partners. He's become a a brother to me. You know, we've been through so much together, and I'm just so proud that I continue to see him grow, not just from an athletic standpoint, not just from a business standpoint, but from a human standpoint. And that to me is important, because I wouldn't do this for any other reason at the end of the day. And he has so much more to give to the world, not just to the world of sports, but to the world. And I'm excited about what's to come.
And I think it's interesting as well. People will want to know the real Conor, because you see a different Conor when you watch the Notorious documentary to the one where he's extremely brash, he's extremely unapologetic. Of course, his famous quote, which he uttered in the octagon, which I will not repeat here because we're not allowed to. But, you know, he is this pantomime character. He's a caricature in many ways. Some of the things that he does, the billionaire strut, the kind of the Mystic Mac qualities, where he's predicting exactly when he's going to get a knockout and often delivering on those predictions, it's almost like that has been choreographed, and his rise has become part and parcel of this just wild story, and yet there are moments where he seems quite sanguine compared to the sort of character that you would see kind of portrayed in very, very many different guises. So we're really keen to get an insight into what he is really like. Does he regret some of those misdemeanors and some of those things, the whole build-up to the Khabib fight, for example? What's his take on that now as he has matured as a man?
I will say that Conor McGregor is human just like us. Conor McGregor makes mistakes just like we do. And yes, he regrets a lot of those misdemeanors, as you called them. I think that's a good... that's a legal term back in the U.S., so I usually don't use that because he wasn't breaking the law, but
it's like a parking ticket.
But he absolutely regrets the mistakes he made, and you know what? I will tell you, even that the lead up to the Khabib fight, it was some unfortunate things that were said on both sides. Yeah, it's forgotten that that there's things that, you know, if we went back and looked at the previous few years as Conor was already on top and every other fighter was coming up, and you know, the derogatory things that were said about him and where he comes from, and in an effort to get the fight, right? And then things were said back that were unfortunate as well. But I could tell you, not only, you know, has he apologized to me and my family for things that were said in the heat of the moment, but also potentially taken out of context because of the rivalry and the things that were being said back and forth. But he's owned up to them, and he'll continue to own up to them and continue to lead by example going forward. That's the key. All he could do is continue to just learn from his mistakes, continue to work hard, continue to show his passion, continue to be grounded in terms of who he is as a person, as a human, focusing on his own purpose in life and a professional purpose as well. And only time will tell, right? At the end of the day, for me, it's exciting now to see where we're going with everything and how, you know, the world works in mysterious and God works in mysterious ways, right? And now we're talking about an event coming up January 23rd and where that event's going to be, and how now you're given an opportunity to show the real you as opposed to the sound bites just from an instance, right? Yeah. That was ugly, but ugly on both sides. And hopefully all these athletes, all of them, Conor McGregor, they're a fraternity. And one day, we're going to be 60, 70-year-old men coming back to reunions and all these galas and things of that nature. And you're going to look back at these incidences as that was stupid. That was just stupid. That was young and stupid, and I shouldn't have done that. More importantly, in the present day, learning from those and saying, but you know, I want to set a better example. I want to do better this time. Because there's kids all around the world, no matter where you come from, what you believe in, that look up to these guys on both sides. So rather than be divisive, build a bridge, because that's what sports could do. It could build a bridge of understanding, a bridge of coexistence, a bridge of respect, right? Yeah. Because in the end, no matter where you come from, what you believe in, we all want the same things out of life, for the most part, right? And that's important. You can't lose sight of that.
Audie, I want to pick up on something that Robbie said there about choreographed, because my mum, not a big UFC fan.
She thinks it's WWE.
She does not quite think it's WWE. My mum's more of a football and a darts fan, is my mum, Mrs. McHardy. She loves a bit of snooker as well, in actual fact. She's old school. But one thing she does know, she knows who Conor McGregor is. Now, to come back to what Robbie said about choreographed, give us the long and short of it. You've already said to us that you have looked at things differently. In that first meeting with Conor, the conversation you had with him, over a few days. I'm sure it was a few meetings. Has everything that has happened since been planned by you and your boffins?
No. Okay. Listen. No. It has not. Conor, first and foremost, is, again, he's a global icon for a reason. Not just for his athletic ability, but he's so entertaining to watch. He's so inspiring to watch. And his story and how he really manifested it through his own beliefs and, you know, the laws of attraction and all the things that he used to believe in. You referenced the documentary, right?
In the documentary.
All these different elements of his journey are relatable. And I think that's what makes him special, is because when you turn on the telly or you search him up, and I just use the term my daughters say now, search him up. So that's a new thing, by the way. The kids say search him up, not Google it anymore. You watch all those entertaining clips or moments, and you say, that's a guy. That's a guy I either train with, or that's a guy I went to school with, or that's a guy I work with, or that's me, or that's how I feel. He's very relatable, right? But the charisma and the wit and the intelligence is not planned. It's not staged. It's not choreographed. It's not written. It's him. And that's what makes him special.
Do you get a heads up when he issues a retirement tweet? Because he's done
Unfortunately not. I'm usually the one having to deal with it after, right? But again, that's also what makes him special. Yeah. You know, like there are times where we have these, you know, real conversations like, you can't do this, you can't. And there are times you're like, that's who he is. You can't change your people. You got to amplify who they are, but at the end of the day too, help them become the best versions of themselves, right? Learning from the mistakes, refine you know, soften the edges, so to speak, because, you know, nobody's perfect. But at the end of the day, that's our job. Our job is to amplify, optimize, but more importantly, help guide and also, you know, help them improve so they keep evolving. Because we all need to keep evolving in everything we do.
Let's come back to something that you've already touched on. His next bout, he's stepping back into the octagon.
I didn't say where it was. I just, you know,
this is what I want to get to, because you're in Dubai, so I'm putting 2 and 2 together, and hopefully I'm spitting out 4 on this one. But the date's confirmed, January 23rd. It's UFC 257, Conor against Poirier for the second time. It is the second time that these two men will meet. Abu Dhabi, the Etihad Arena, you know when I'm going with this, it is built. We are led to believe that safety tests have taken place. Dana White on Barstool Sports a couple of weeks ago said they built it for us. I'm not sure, Dana, they did build it for you, but it's a great venue. It's world-class, state-of-the-art. Is that, how close? Give me a percentage.
Well, so here's what I'll tell you. January 23rd is happening for sure. Yes. There's no question. And Dana White and the UFC did a great job, and the United Arab Emirates government, particularly Abu Dhabi government, and Yas Island, Fight Island, was a phenomenal hit, and I think the world needed it, right? It was the first sport back during the pandemic when, you know, everybody was at home doing the same thing all over the world. That was the most unique thing about what was going on right now, is that, you know, clients, friends from, you know, Asia to Europe to North and South America were literally doing the same thing all at the same time. And that's for the UFC to have the gumption and really the foresight to say, let's do this, but let's create these protocols, and the Abu Dhabi government to help them create this bubble was phenomenal, right? That was exciting. It was great for the sport, which obviously I'm involved with and I'm a fan of, so I was really happy to see that. And it also then just opened up the opportunity to continue to do more here. So I was saying earlier, God works in mysterious ways, but he doesn't make mistakes. Everything he does, everything that happens is for a reason. And so now we're talking about January 23rd. Again, God works in mysterious ways, because when we initially were talking about January 23rd, it was like, where do we have it? Was it going to be in Vegas? We initially said, let's do Dallas Cowboy Stadium. We have a great relationship with Jerry Jones and the Jones family. So that was the initial thought, right? It was going to likely be in the U.S. because U.S. pay-per-view times and all the different elements of the business that you know, you kind of think through. But now what's happening with the world again? There's different parts of the world are reopening back up. The U.S. is shutting back down. There's a lot of uncertainty in terms of what's going on. But the UAE's been ahead of it in terms of not only from a testing protocol standpoint, but now the vaccine and getting the world back on its feet. Really, when we first heard the news that it may be in Abu Dhabi again, we were excited because I was like, this is not a mistake. This is meant to happen. Why not? And I think we first thought maybe it was going to be Fight Island, the bubble, and things of that nature. But then Dana's been on record saying this publicly on Barstools and other outlets. That fans and this and that and pool parties and all these things. And so what I would say to that is, it's not 100% been confirmed, so I'm only sharing what's been, said in the public.
Would you be surprised if it wasn't in the UAE?
I would be surprised if it wasn't in the UAE. Yes, I would be surprised if it wasn't in the UAE. I'll say that.
I want to get an insight into Conor's kind of aspirations competitively in terms of what remains for him to do in the UFC, and obviously his other pursuits, his potential boxing bout with another client of yours, Manny Pacquiao, because there are those out there that would say that the sporting integrity of a boxing bout between a Manny Pacquiao and a Conor McGregor is questionable. Now,
is it questionable?
No.
You see boxing matches with YouTubers going on.
That's kind of where we want to get to, because on the flip side of that, now I don't know. Again, that I'm not privy to the sort of behind the scenes of the Mayweather-McGregor fight, but then many people would say that Conor absolutely excelled in that fight and gave Mayweather, more problems than some of his professional boxing opponents.
And I would even say that Floyd was lucky, because the Conor McGregor of present day is a more mature Conor McGregor. Is not just a way better athlete and better boxer, but it's just he's an evolved human being in all aspects. So it would be a different outcome. I guarantee that. I guarantee that. Floyd gave us 10 weeks to prepare for that fight. Conor McGregor is a different specimen right now. Not just athletically, but if you look at him athletically, he's light years where he was, even in his last fight. So, and I can't wait. I'll just let January 23rd do the talking first in MMA. And what I would tell you,
you honestly believe Conor could beat Floyd in a boxing bout?
I do believe it. I think he could beat him in the rematch for sure. I think it's like when you get that experience and you understand where you went wrong, you're a different person. That's why it's going to be so fun, because that's why I think Manny Pacquiao and Conor McGregor will happen, because Manny Pacquiao too sees that challenge for himself.
Does he see a challenge? You know where I'm going with this. Does he see a challenge, or does he see the dollar signs?
I mean, look, at the end of the day, the dollar signs are there, but you're talking about two very successful individuals, right? Manny Pacquiao doesn't need this. Conor McGregor doesn't need this. So they're both at a place in their careers where the competition is what is driving it. The challenge is what's driving it. For Conor, it's like, well, I missed opportunity. Floyd, now I can do it with another legend. For Manny, this guy is good. Nobody gave him credit against Floyd Mayweather. I think he's going to be even better this time. I'm going to probably get a way better Conor McGregor than Floyd did. So it's a challenge for Manny. And given what Manny does, the guy works 24/7 between his political career and he still trains at his age. He's a machine. So it's just a different level of interest for both guys. But I do believe Conor versus Floyd again, he beats him. I don't think Floyd ever takes it. No. Floyd's taking YouTubers for a paycheck right now. Floyd doesn't want to. Floyd could take Manny Pacquiao as a rematch. You don't see him taking that fight. Floyd could take Conor McGregor for a rematch. You don't see him taking that fight. But he'll take a Logan Paul. He'll take the young Japanese fighter he fought previously. I think that's what Floyd's going to do. Floyd doesn't want. Floyd knows he will lose if he takes on either Manny Pacquiao or Conor McGregor.
Just quickly on Floyd Conor. One of the big parts of that in the build-up was the trash talk, which was so over the top. It was almost circus-like. It was almost pantomime-like, and you almost felt like these guys don't actually mean it. They're just hyping it up. And sure enough, after the fight, they were quite amicable with one another. That won't be the case, because Manny doesn't really engage in that kind of trash talk. And
Conor respects Manny too. I think Floyd and Conor had some banter, and there was a little bit of a chip on the shoulder, if you will, right, on both sides. And
was there genuine animosity?
I don't know if it was genuine animosity because I know they both respect each other either. I think there's when you get two ultimate type A competitors around each other, right? Especially those two who have an amazing gift for gab, as we say.
Yeah.
Right? Amazing ability to speak and talk trash, and it starts to build that way. Starts to feel that way. You start to feel that tension, right? So it is real in the heat of the moment. When it's all said and done, they're still part of the same fraternity. As I was saying, even in MMA, they still both make those walks. You got to respect each other when you do that. They still represent a platform and a sport that they both love. They still both could change the world and make an impact the same way. So when it's all said and done, there's a lot of respect there. Even with I'd say the biggest foes when they face one another, whether it's on an individual sport basis or even on a club base or team sport basis. Right?
Just on that, Audie,
there's always animosity to some extent.
Give us a semblance then, because I will admit to you, as you're sat in front of me, I felt a little duped. I did feel as if it was pantomime. I did feel it was a little bit WWE, and I was a little nauseated when in the middle of the ring they came and hugged, and I just felt, you know what? They've done us all a bit of a kipper here. They are banking a lot of money.
Can I tell you the energy on these world tours were? I'm sure you guys had friends in particularly maybe the London one, but the energy inside these world tour stops was real.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just them; it was the crowds. They
bought into it.
Man, I remember Toronto when we went out on stage in Toronto. The energy was something else. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking back on that.
But on that, the difference
and these athletes feed off that.
Yeah, of course
right?
they do.
So it's not a show. It's not scripted. It's not, hey, I'm going to do this, you're going to do that. No, it's raw energy.
How did it differ, though, at the end? You've said there respect, great respect between Mayweather and Conor. How did that differ to Conor Khabib? Because there is no doubt, and we spoke to Khabib, he felt that Conor...
I think you have a lot of people in Khabib's camp that do too much talking for him, and that stoke the flames, and that say things that may not get picked up as much as what Conor says back, but that were equally as bad.
But behind the scenes, Audie, did they shake hands? They certainly didn't in the octagon.
There was no behind-the-scenes shaking hands. Even with Floyd, there was no behind-the-scenes shaking hands. Usually when these fighters see each other, it's either in these press conferences, these world tours, the face-off, the weigh-ins, the post-fight press conferences. Those are usually the only time when
there's interaction.
Yeah, unless there's a genuine friendship there, which happens on occasion, right? But for the most part, all promoters, boxing, MMA, they keep them separate for a reason, right? Because, again, going back to feeding off that raw energy and emotion, it's not scripted, but you feed off all this stuff, and then, at the end of the day, you're still in combat sports. At the end of the day, it's not like, say, right, face off, ready, go, patty cake. No, you're still going in to compete and hurt, at the end of the day, someone could get hurt because this is a serious sport.
You mentioned that fraternity. If Conor and Khabib bump into each other in their dotage at sort of 70 years of age, do they shake hands then?
I would
tell
you if I had anything to do with it, inshallah, as we say, of course they should do that. Of course they should reconcile. But time will tell. At the end of the day, time will tell. There's still a real rivalry. I wish Khabib all the best in his retirement. He decides to come out of retirement. We were able to see that great rematch. It will be amazing. I know the fans will want it. But ultimately, whether it's Conor Khabib, Floyd Conor, Manny Conor, right? They all have the ability to build a bridge of understanding, respect, right, through sport. And in the end, they all have to remember that. And if you're part of any other camp, it's also part of your responsibility to remind them that as well, as opposed to stoking the flames and making things worse.
Or you've stated that you feel it, were there to be a Mayweather-McGregor rematch, that your man would win that. You're pretty confident of that.
Floyd, call me. Manny, Conor, Fight someone real. Let's go.
We'll get to that. I wonder if there was to be a rematch between Khabib and Conor. What did Conor learn from that first bout, and are you as confident that if Khabib could be tempted out of retirement for another fight, that Conor
absolutely
would have?
Should be a different. Conor's a different person right now. He's just not going. He's not going to be following. I think just experience, life experience, sport experience. You got to go through the good, the bad, the ugly, to break through to that next version of yourself. It's kind of like training. You hit a wall, you're so sore, you don't want to train, but if you end up going in there, breaking all that lactic acid is really how you're going to get the gains. It's no different from life experiences. Challenging yourself from a intellectual standpoint. The mind, the body still have to constantly be fed and constantly evolve for you to be the best version of yourself until the day you die.
I've got still so many questions. I'm conscious of time, though, Audie, but one of those, and you've been very honest with us.
I feel like we're going to be here all day.
We could be having fun with you guys. We really could be. I'm conscious, and a big thanks once again to the Ritz Carlton Dubai JBR. But one question I need to ask, because you've said that Conor and Manny, both of which fighting under your banner, Paradigm Sports, that may well be a fight for the future. Is that inevitable in 2021?
I definitely believe it's inevitable in 2021. Both fighters want it. That's the key. You can't make something happen or orchestrate it or choreograph it as the buzzword of this interview, right? You can't fake that. If one side wants it, as doesn't want it, it's not going to happen. But when both fighters want that fight to happen, why wouldn't it happen? If the fans want to see it, that almost guarantees that it's going to happen, right? Because there's enough interest to develop something there. So it's, initially we were looking at that being the next fight, and the plan was Conor wanted to have fun with it. He's like, I'll spar Dustin and donate to his foundation because he saw he was raising money for his foundation. He said, no, I'll do the Manny fight. We'll just do a spar in MMA during camp. The way he thinks is just, and I was like, okay, so let's do that. But then the UFC said, well, let's do that rematch. We said, okay, well, let's do that rematch first then. But then Manny will be the next fight. And that's what both fighters want. So, that's the plan. And we've been having amazing conversations with stakeholders from all over the world, including the Middle East. And we'll see. We'll see where it goes. But, I think that,
Would you be shocked if it didn't happen in 2021?
I'd be shocked if it didn't happen in 2021.
And Middle East. Now, again, I'm doing my maths. I'm not a very good mathematician. Dubai, Coca-Cola Arena. Abu Dhabi, I think, ticks the box from a UFC perspective with their exclusive deal. I'm now heading over to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Manny, Conor, where do you think that fits in the Middle Eastern landscape?
I think there's a good chance that it could happen in this region because there is interest from the region, right? But it's still too early to tell, right? Because there's also interest from Asia and then America as well. So it just depends on how things shake up, and there's so many moving parts with that. You have to work through all the different elements to figure out where it will land.
One thing we can safely say, it will not take place in Scotland. Fair to say that.
Fair to say. If we're going there, we got to go to the Emerald Isle. Got to honor my man,
Audie, I've got to ask you about the recent announcement between Mayweather and the YouTuber Logan Paul, because the WWE posted a screenshot of Mayweather's infamous fight with the Big Show. I put fight in inverted commas. And they put the tweet, "This is now not the most strangest fight that Floyd Mayweather will ever be."
That was well played by the WWE.
That was very well played,
right?
I guess our question, and it's probably thematic to this interview, is when it comes to sporting integrity, when it comes to just this idea that this is nothing more than a shameless cash grab from
you can't say
Floyd.
that for these guys. In my opinion, is this: Floyd's earned his right to do that. Okay, he's
not a league sport, though, is it?
Yeah, look. In my opinion, it's not anywhere near Conor. I know Conor was 0-0 as a boxer technically, but he was a striker, grew up in boxing, right? Actually fights for a living, right? Not trying to fight as part of his overall arching entertainment career, right? So it's very different. But Floyd's earned this right, and if that's all he wants to do, that's great. But that's not a real fight.
You don't see it tarnishing or negatively impacting the fight game in general?
I think boxing has already been so fragmented, and MMA is the dominant combat sport of the world. It just is right now, and the numbers will confirm that, right? In terms of how big the fan base is, the consistent views and viewership that particularly the UFC gets with their events compared to even the biggest boxing pay-per-views, which don't necessarily do that well at all anymore, right? But I do think that there's still a desire and an appetite for unique combat sports entertainment. Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr. I bought it. I was entertained. I loved that. I tuned in. And if Mike Tyson fought again, I'd probably watch again because I grew up watching Mike Tyson. I'm a huge fan of Mike Tyson. So there was a nostalgic element to that event. This one doesn't have that necessarily, right? There's no nostalgic element to this matchup, but it could be for some people and not others. Like the event will have to take place, and then we could critique it and analyze it. I think to say, did it do well? Was this a miscalculation, or did they hit it out of the park, and were we just all oblivious? I mean, that thing I don't know, but I think Floyd's earned that right to do that at this point in his career. But the reality of it is if he knows there's a rematch with Manny Pacquiao, there's a rematch with Conor McGregor. I think those are the two serious fights for him that if he wanted to compete in boxing again, those are the fights to make.
Just to wrap up with you, if we can, Audie, I mean, when we look at the wider thing, because I think it's important to point out to our viewers and anyone listening to this that Paradigm Sport's far more than just Conor McGregor. And I know that's probably the questions you get asked the most, because he is Mystic Mac, he is this larger-than-life character. He, in a lot of ways, transcends the sport of MMA. Israel Adesanya, to be massively respectful to that man, there's a man who has done an awful lot inside the octagon.
He's just getting started.
And he's only getting started. Yeah. So Chris Cyborg, I know, is also on your books. Josie Altidore in the world of football, or soccer as they say in the US. So from a Paradigm Sports perspective, what's to come in 2021? What are the other areas? What are the other vanguards that you want to be exploring and looking to continue to grow and evolve? Because as you say, you never set still.
No. We're a multi-sport business and media platform, agency, whatever you want to call it. But I really think of us as a platform, because management's the core business. Trying to focus on high-growth sports was our thesis, and then vertically integrating and starting enterprises in sectors that align organically with our clients and or our ecosystem, right? So what's next? We just closed. We obviously our football soccer acquisition happened last year. That's been going phenomenal for us. We have another acquisition within combat sports. We're just closing now. I can't go into detail. The term sheet's been signed. So there's growing those core businesses, getting into other high-growth sports, and then continuing to roll out more ventures. We have more consumer products that are coming out. We launched a video game and a studio in the mobile gaming space. We have a health and wellness venture coming out, a fitness venture coming out. We have some more ventures for not just Conor, but other clients that are in the works as well, to just continue to replicate and scale our model and continue to prove our concept. So it's exciting. And to me, it's a blessing. I don't look at this as work. I look at this as the opportunity to create and fulfill my own personal and professional purpose through sport, because that's been a huge part of my entire life.
And of course, you're always on the lookout for the next Conor, because that's the
one of
magic
the reasons
bullet, right?
why we also launched Paradigm Sports International in our Dubai office. Really, is because it is a hub not only for the financial world, and also really access, right? You have access to most of the world from here, but also the region. I was born in Iraq, Baghdad, Iraq. I have a huge soft spot for the Middle East, just because of who I am and where I come from. And I do believe that these athletes are underserved, and they don't necessarily have the same platforms that we have in Europe and America, right? Yeah. Whereas if you're good, you're going to progress and you're going to get the opportunities. You're starting to see more of that now. You have the royal family here has been a huge part of the jiu-jitsu world for a long time. Yeah. And it was probably they were part of that world before that world was cool. Yeah. To the mainstream mind, right? So to now see where combat sports has gone, and really where jiu-jitsu and MMA have evolved to, is exciting. And now you're giving an opportunity to the next Conor McGregor coming from this region. And that's why we've also aggressively tried to sign top athletes from this region. Amir Albazi, Mohammed Makayev, Fatima Zahra was a new judo champion from Morocco we just signed. So we're really also trying to focus and see if we could not only help find and discover, but more so nourish and grow, right? Because ultimately, again, we're going back to when Conor and I started working together almost a decade ago. It takes a while to get to that place of stardom and or success, right? And that is what we're excited about, just to kind of be part of that process and hopefully contribute in a substantive way to help also nourish and grow the talent from this region.
Well, Audie, we're looking forward to seeing Conor twice in the Middle East in 2021.
Very good, Robert.
That was a good one. I'm saying yes. That wasn't easy. I'm just saying.
Well, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for sparing so much time.
No, thank you guys for having me.
It's been a really, really fun chat and a great insight into Paradigm and obviously the worlds of Manny and Conor and et cetera, et cetera. So we wish you a lot of success in the next couple of days.
Thank you, Jeff.
Look forward to catching up with you very soon, hopefully in 2021.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Thank you,
Audie. Thanks, man.